This woman should be in jail. Literally, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. And so should the people who worked for her who did this. This is so blatantly corrupt. She wanted to distract from her email scandal. She cooked up a plan to accuse Trump of being a Russian agent in order to distract from her own.
Hillary Clinton has long built herself as the unstoppable force of politics, a figure seemingly destined to shape history. But when Megyn Kelly takes aim, that aura of inevitability crumbles. This isn't just a roast of missteps, it's a dismantling of the whole Clinton myth. Every rehearsed smile, every staged laugh, every speech oozing entitlement becomes fodder for ridicule. Megyn peels back the polish, revealing the Clinton brand not as a symbol of power, but as a
his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out-and-out lies that were really serious and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And
the roast kicks off with the glaring contradiction: Hillary's relentless chase for power versus her chronic inability to connect with people. Megyn frames it as sharp irony. The woman who aimed to be America's most relatable leader could never pull it off. Every attempt at authenticity felt scripted. Every effort to seem just like us landed like a clumsy, poorly rehearsed skit. Megyn exposes the truth. Hillary's biggest political liability was Hillary herself, her failure to convince anyone she was genuine.
Scandal. She made up a scandal about Trump being a Russian asset. And they banked on the intel agencies working with her to perpetuate this lie, and it appears they were only too happy to assist. That's what this scandal's about. Pieces of it we knew. New pieces are coming in by the day thanks to these declassifications. And it's...
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Then comes the crowning humiliation of Hillary's career, the 2016 election. Megyn paints the scene in vivid detail. Hillary had the media, Hollywood, billionaires, and global donors lined up behind her, yet she lost to Donald Trump, the man everyone dismissed as a political clown. Megyn doesn't soften it, she amplifies it. Hillary didn't just lose, she lost the one election she was expected to win effortlessly. The roast frames it as the most colossal political choke in American history, a collapse so epic it rewrote the rules of modern politics.
Has a very weird and I think shitty marriage. I don't think she has a husband who is in love with her or faithful to her, and I think I can't really blame him because she seems to have accepted this behavior since the inception of their marriage. And so, past this prologue, you're going to get what you tolerate. You know, what you permit, you promote. She spent all of her daughter's upbringing away, at work, at the law firm,
lampooning how she treated the presidency like a coronation. Hillary didn't campaign like someone trying to earn votes, she campaigned like she was already choosing drapes for the Oval Office. The arrogance was so thick, her slogan might as well have been, "It's my turn." Megyn skewers this mindset, showing that voters don't respond to inevitability, they respond to persuasion. Hillary didn't persuade anyone. She demanded loyalty and acted stunned when it didn't materialize.
Years ago, never mind 8 or 10 years ago, when she was doing all this. And back to Hillary, you know, the whole, she has a hat she's tweeted herself out wearing, but her emails. She's tried to turn it into this ridiculous joke, like, oh, but the moon landing, like you nutcases who are still railing about this made-up scandal.
Megyn endless ammo. From Whitewater to Benghazi to the private email server, she tears through the list with surgical precision, none of it ever truly resolved. Hillary's legacy isn't leadership, it's surviving scandal after scandal. By clearing her name, but by outlasting outrage, Megyn underscores the absurdity. The woman who wanted to be remembered for shattering glass ceilings will instead be remembered dodging shards from every controversy that
Hillary Clinton decided to drop an op-ed in the New York Times today that's entitled, "How much dumber will this get?" And she uses Signalgate and the messaging by Pete Hegseth and Mike Walls and JD Vance and Tulsi and others on there as the jumping off point.
Hillary's inability to handle criticism. Hillary has a habit of blaming everyone but herself. The FBI, Russia, sexism, the media, even voters. Megyn frames it as the ultimate refusal of accountability. The punch hits hardest when she notes that Hillary blames the very people she claimed to represent. Losing because the working class didn't vote for you is one thing. Blaming them for not appreciating you, that's something else entirely. It's not leadership, it's resentment, dressed as analysis. Megyn also dismantles the trailblazer image. Hillary's career rode the coattails of Bill Clinton's rise. Without his presidency, she never would have had the platform to launch her own. Megyn cuts through the myth. Hillary didn't break barriers alone, she walked through doors already opened.
And I think really is just sort of getting along based on the family name at this point. And so now she's got a daughter who I guess married a rich guy but is struggling in her own right. Hillary's in a loveless marriage. She probably doesn't have a lot of real friends, just people who are glamours. And so she absolutely does have to write a fifth memoir and go on MSNBC and be told that she's amazing.
Megyn doesn't shy away from the elephant in the room. Hillary built her brand as a defender of women, yet stood by Bill through decades of allegations and misconduct. Megyn skewers the hypocrisy. The self-proclaimed champion of women was also the most visible enabler of a man accused by multiple women of exploitation. The comedy is brutal, but it lands because it's fair. Hillary's feminism only applied when politically convenient. When loyalty to Bill was at stake, principles took a back seat. Hillary's stage presence becomes another target. Megyn highlights the awkward gestures, forced laughs, and attempts at humor that land like a malfunctioning robot. The warm, relatable persona Hillary tried to project looks more like a Saturday Night Live parody. Megyn compares it to watching a broken Siri tell jokes. Effort is there. Humanity is missing. It's the perfect metaphor. Hillary, in front of cameras, trying to look like a stateswoman while pressing a bright red plastic button labeled incorrectly.
She did need to distract from that email scandal, which was around her neck like an albatross. Trust me, we were covering it every night on the Kelly File at Fox News. She had clearly violated the law with that homebrew server that had been accessed by foreign agents. She compromised national intelligence information. She did things she would never have allowed anybody at the state.
Megyn also targets Hillary's habit of playing the victim. Every loss, every scandal, every stumble has been spun as something done to her, never anything she brought on herself. Megyn turns it into a biting gag, likening her to a boxer knocked out cold, who insists the referee, the crowd, and even the lighting are to blame. The joke hits because it exposes what many already suspected. Hillary was never as strong as she claimed to be. Megyn also seizes on the wealth angle. Hillary rails against inequality and the corrupting influence of money. Yet the hypocrisy is glaring and impossible to ignore. Her post-election career provides more fodder. Instead of moving on gracefully, Hillary has spent years reliving 2016, trapped in her own political purgatory. Endless books, interviews, and documentaries rehashing the same loss read less like resilience and more like obsession. Megyn paints her as the washed-up athlete who refuses to retire, endlessly replaying old game footage for anyone who will watch. The roast lands hard because it reveals the truth. Hillary Clinton cannot move on.
Decided to drop an op-ed in the New York Times today that's entitled, "How much dumber will this get?" And she uses Signalgate and the messaging by Pete Hegseth and Mike Walls and JD Vance and Tulsi and others on there as the jumping off point to talk about how dumb the Trump administration is.
Megyn also goes after Hillary's relentless attempts at rebranding. Each new phase First Lady, Senator, Secretary of State, presidential candidate came with a new slogan, a new look, a new Hillary. But no matter how often she tried to reinvent herself, the public saw right through it. Megyn likens it to a bad movie rebooted every few years with a new director, new cast, and flashy marketing only for audiences to walk out halfway through. The problem wasn't the packaging, it was the product. By the time Megyn is done, Hillary is no longer the titan of inevitability she spent decades cultivating. She's the punchline of her own ambition, the cautionary tale of entitlement colliding with reality. Megyn doesn't just roast her politics, she dismantles her persona, her career, and her myth. What's left isn't the unstoppable force Hillary claimed to be, but a stark reminder that the most powerful illusion in politics is believing you are destined to win. Megyn ensures the audience doesn't just laugh at Hillary's flaws, they witness the collapse of her entire narrative, laid bare for all to see.
Again, on why she lost. And just in case you were thinking it was because she didn't go to Wisconsin, you are wrong. It is you, women of America. It is your fault. She now sits down for an interview and decides that the reason she didn't win is American females. That they didn't like that she wasn't her.
Megyn doesn't stop at Hillary's political failures. She digs into the endless contradictions of her public persona. Hillary built her brand as a champion of women, yet her career is filled with moments where she tossed women under the bus to serve her own ambitions. Megyn skewers the hypocrisy with surgical precision, showing that Hillary's feminism has always been conditional, a costume for the cameras, discarded in backroom deals. The comedy continues with Hillary's chronic the awkward chuckles, stiff interactions, and over-polished attempts at relatability all read like a decades-long performance of a woman trying and failing to convince the world she's human. Megyn makes every forced gesture and laugh land as its own punchline.
Out this tweet, and it's a picture of her, a much younger Hillary, and the caption on the hat reads, "But her emails." And she writes in her tweet, "Bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy." The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to bring it. And now seeing her political opponent get a different result and trying to take some sort of a, "I told you, but my emails, that was never a thing," lap is gall.
Which Megyn turns into prime comedic material. Hillary coveted the presidency for so long that her own desperation became her downfall. Decades spent building a resume, collecting titles, and scripting a legacy, all for a public that simply didn't buy it. Megyn frames her as a tragic figure, every credential in place, yet none of the charisma. A political product polished to perfection, but expired on the shelf. The roast sharpens when Megyn compares Hillary's failed 2016 campaign to a high-budget film that flopped at the box office. Marketing everywhere, glowing reviews, money poured in, but the audience walked out. Hillary didn't lose to some grand conspiracy. Megyn jabs. She lost because people didn't want the product she was selling: the FBI, the media, misogyny, Russia, James Comey, the Electoral College, disinformation campaigns, the list of scapegoats.
And that leaves me back to Schellenberger here. This is page 4 of his report. He says this, he writes as follows: the Russian reports, again, that the Dutch spied on, that we got our hands on, also claimed, and listen to this, I mean, you probably already know this stuff, Glenn, but claimed that Attorney General Loretta Lynch, okay, this is back in 16, people, remember, Obama's president, Loretta Lynch is his Attorney General, and her DOJ/FBI are investigating the Hillary Clinton email scandal, and also now we learn simultaneously working with the Hillary Clinton campaign to bury that scandal in favor.
Hillary's greatest political skill, turning every misstep into an elaborate blame game. At some point, Megyn points out, if everyone else is to blame, maybe the problem was never them in the first place. Hillary's attempts to cling to relevance since her loss provide even more comedy gold. Megyn dismantles the image of Hillary as a behind-the-scenes kingmaker, popping up in interviews, hinting at comebacks, and whispering about being ready to serve. It's the political equivalent of a washed-up rock star still convinced. The crowd is chanting their name when the stadium is empty. By the end, Hillary doesn't look like a titan of politics. That's the sting. Megyn Kelly doesn't just expose Hillary's flaws, she shows that the very things Hillary thought were her strengths, experience, ambition, and her trailblazer image, were the weapons that undid her. It's not just a roast. It's a ruthless unmasking of the myth Hillary spent decades trying to sell.